Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, am I really living the life I was meant to? Welcome to Female Fluence, where we stop waiting for permission and start remembering our power. I am Pearl Mashour, a mom, educator, and a women's empowerment coach. And this is a space for honest conversations about growth, purpose, and becoming who you truly are. Here, we wake up to ourselves. We release the guilt, reclaim our confidence, and rise with grace, truth, and a little bit of fire. If something in you is whispering, there's more, take the self-reflection quiz at femalefluence.com and see where you are in your journey. Because you're not here to play small, you're here to rise fully. For many women today, the path of building a career and building a family no longer happens at the same timeline it once did. Women are pursuing education, leadership roles, entrepreneurship, and personal growth well beyond their 30s, but biology doesn't always evolve at the same pace as society. This can create a quiet but powerful tension for many women, the desire to have it all, a meaningful career, personal fulfillment, and the opportunity to start a family. Conversations around fertility, egg freezing, and reproductive health are becoming more common because women are realizing the importance of understanding their biology today. Today's discussion is about empowering women with knowledge so they can make informed decisions about their own bodies, their own timing, and their futures. Today, I am joined by Dr. Jaime Knopman, a double board certified reproductive endocrinologist and fertility specialist who serves as a director of fertility preservation at CCRM Fertility of New York. She specializes in fertility treatments, including IVF, egg freezing, fertility preservation, and family building options for individuals and couples. Beyond her clinical work, she's also the medical director of the nonprofit Chick Mission, which supports young adult cancer patients facing fertility challenges due to treatments like chemotherapy. That's incredible. She is passionate about educating women on reproductive health and is the author of Own Your Fertility, helping women better understand their options from egg freezing to surrogacy. So just welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation on Female Fluence. Welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your patience because I know we had some scheduling snafus, but we're here together today.
That's all that matters, right? As women, we can do this. We multitask and we can
I am woman, hear me roar. Yeah.
deal with disasters.
Yep.
So let's start with for a woman listening today who might not be familiar with what you do, right? With the fertility medicine, what your job is. What should someone consider before seeing you? If you can give us a little background for someone who's not familiar with any of this.
Yeah, so I tell people I used to call myself an infertility doctor, and now I call myself a fertility doctor because most of my days are helping women and couples preserve their fertility rather than treat infertility. And that's been a pretty significant change in the field of fertility medicine that I've witnessed over the course of my 20 plus year career in fertility medicine. So I probably now most of my days are spent helping young women freeze their eggs, preserve their fertility, but I do see couples who deal with infertility as well.
Okay. Okay, good. So I know, I've heard you talk and emphasize about how obviously as a woman, we want to do everything, right? And if we're focused on building a career and we're in a really good time of our job and then we're thinking about, like before we start a family, what is the biggest misconception that we have as women about fertility and our age? And why is that, having it all has become such a damaging cultural expectation for women?
So I think we think our fertility will be endless, right? We think it's, no pun intended, it's a birthright, right? But the problem is it is not endless. There's a very sharp, there's like, the road, it ends pretty abruptly, and we can't unfortunately get it back. So I think a lot of us are under the impression that, all right, I'll just have a baby whenever I choose, and that does not exist.
Right. And I've heard you say before too, a lot of times I think, as women, if we get our period, right, we think, oh, it's okay. Like I'm 45, I still have my period. So I must be still in the right time of my life to have lots of babies. Would you say
Yeah.
that is true?
Yeah, I mean, in our book, we talk about it. I always forget it. I think it's chapter 7. It's the myths. Menses does not equal motherhood. So just because a woman is getting her period does not mean she has quality eggs that will result in a healthy, viable pregnancy. And that is a misconception that we frequently see women face.
That is right. That's myth. There's a lot of those myths that we will talk about. How did your own experience as a doctor, mother, and a cancer survivor, is that correct, reshape your
Yep.
perspective in fertility and your own personal ambitions?
Yeah, so I think for me, I think being a mother changed my perspective on having children, which is probably sort of trite. Like people probably are like, yeah, of course. But it also made me want to help so many other women have what I had, right? Because I was like, this is the most amazing gift. I want to pay it forward and give it back. So I think it motivated me even more. I think having cancer was, I mean, of course, I'm fortunate. I was stage 1. I had access to care. I was able to treat my disease and go into
What
remission.
kind of
But
cancer did you have?
I had breast cancer.
Breast cancer.
Yeah, so I think that that made me a better doctor because I don't think I'd ever had a real big like hiccup in the medical, my medical path. And so it really forced me I was a patient. I wasn't just a doctor. I was a patient and I learned what it felt like to be a patient and how, it's destabilizing. You feel out of control. You want the answers. There's so much anxiety. And I hadn't felt that before when it came to a medical diagnosis. And I think that was very helpful.
Yeah, it's like shifting roles, right? Changing.
Mhm.
It's a different perspective.
I think
Um,
every doctor, honestly, or every healthcare provider should be a patient because I think it teaches you a lot and it's really important.
I agree. I think that's with any type of role. I mean, I used to be a teacher, and I feel like, as a teacher, you have this like if a parent is late to pick up their child or there's something's going on at home and you're kind of you're not there. And I didn't have kids of my own then. And it's just you have a different perspective. But once I had my own children and I was on the other end, I like respected the teachers a lot more and I understood the parents' perspective because I've done both roles and I knew how difficult each role is. So I think that's a
Yeah.
great, even in medical school, I think even just that role playing too of really pretending and being in that patient's shoes and understanding like you have to deal with so much compassion and you have to understand what they're going through. And if they kind of get really angry, don't take it personal. They're
Yeah.
just going through this stage.
I think that's hard. I mean, as a healthcare provider, and I think no matter if you're a nurse or a medical assistant or a patient care coordinator, it is hard because we are forced to shoulder the burden of a lot of people's emotions, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not fair, right? Because I get it, you as a patient may be having a really challenging experience, but being mean to everyone who's around you,
That's not fair either.
it's not fair
It's
and it's
not fair because
hard.
you guys are doing the best you can
We
and you're
are.
dealing with this. It's not just that patient, it's so many patients after that. And that's really emotional. That's difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. So, the biological clock. So, from a medical perspective, what actually happens to fertility as women move through like actually 30s, right? 30s
Yeah.
to early 40s. It's not so much where we think, oh, it's much later, it's much earlier.
Yeah, so I think that's also people are surprised when they come in at, 34. They're like, but I'm only 34. And I say, true, but in the land of fertility, for 34 is not 24, right? And so as we get older, the quality and quantity of our eggs decreases. We as women are born with all the eggs we're ever going to have. And unfortunately, we never make new eggs, unlike men who make new sperm every single day. And so that the runway for egg health is pretty short compared to our lifespan. Most women are now going to live into to their 80s, right? But our ovaries are still going to tap out in our 40s. In the 1940s, we lived until maybe we were 60, but
Mhm.
our ovaries tapped out at 40, so it made sense. But evolution in terms of our ovaries have not caught up. So if we don't address it at younger ages, we are liable to really be devastated down the road.
Yeah, that is true. And the life capacity has changed so much, so we don't realize with fertility that's a change as well. So egg freezing has become a much more common conversation, and I see it like it's a lot. You see a lot of these facilities a lot more. It's a lot more common. So who is the ideal candidate for egg freezing, and when should women start thinking about it? Because initially it was really like this is only like if you're really, really much older or if you're having issues getting pregnant. That's what people would think. That's what they need to see a specialist like you, right? But
Yeah.
now I feel like that has completely changed and we're being educated in a different way.
Yeah. So back in the day, the women who were freezing their eggs, like when I first started my career in fertility medicine, were in their 40s. And I frequently call these patients the OG egg freezers, right? They were there throwing a Hail Mary. They said, I'm just going to throw the ball down the field. If nobody's there to catch it, no harm, no foul, right? The clock was running out on their fertility. Now our egg freezers, and I've even looked at my own patient population, have gone down. The average age last year that I saw was 32, right? Average. So we're seeing women coming in their 20s, and because they're coming in their 20s, the results are so much better because they get more eggs and the quality of those eggs are better. So egg freezing is really designed to be a technology that we use in our 20s and early 30s. It's not designed to be there in our late 30s and early 40s because its chance of working is so much lower. Now, that's not to say if a woman comes in and sees me at 41 and she says, I do not want to be a single mother, but I want to preserve my fertility any way I can, I will say to her, listen, you can freeze your eggs. The chance of the eggs working is significantly lower than you had done this at 31, but it's better than coming back at 45 and trying to have a baby with your 45-year-old eggs. So we'll still go down that treatment path, but with better counseling.
So let's say for example, if I'm in my 20s and I'm just starting life, figuring out my job, maybe in a new relationship, is that the time where I should be thinking like, okay, just to be safe, who knows what will happen down the road? I should freeze my eggs because then, it's like, then there's a shift of like, I have friends, like I'm 48 and I'll
Me
have
too. Were
friends
you born in
around the 40s
1978?
age where they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't have a partner. I don't
Yep.
have this. I'm not married. And they're rushing. And this is the time where they're doing it. That's usually when the time we think we're like, oh God, like I'm in my 40s and I'm not married, or I just got a divorce, or it didn't work out. I want to have children. Now it's getting too late. Let me go freeze my eggs. So that's not the time where we should be really doing it unless we have to, right? So this is complete new information.
We need to get to the 20 plus year olds, right? Because that's who it will benefit. I have written an article a couple of times, again, written two articles for Oprah. And what I said is that 20, like I joke around, but like my girls, I have two teenage daughters, will graduate college and freeze their eggs, right? When they graduate. Now, again, I am in a different position. This is what I do. I'm very fortunate to have access to it. But if they freeze their eggs at, 22, 23 years old, that's the peak of their fertility. And then I'm taking something, I'm not saying those eggs are going to work 100%, but those eggs have a much better chance of working than their eggs do at 38. And then I've removed from them the anxiety of what am I going to do for my fertility? Where do I go from here? So, or I shouldn't say removed. I've mitigated it significantly, right? We tell our kids to brush their teeth because we don't want them to get cavities, right? We tell them, we take them for vaccines because we don't want them to get a disease. Why don't we talk about fertility preservation if we know most girls are not going to have kids, most women until they're later 30s at this point? So we have to change the conversation. And I have a lot of friends who are OBGYNs who I still speak with, right? I'm an OBGYN. And I say, you talk to your patients about STDs and contraception and mammograms and pap smears. The fifth pillar should be fertility. What are you planning to do? Do you want to have kids? Are you having kids with, like same sex? Like, are you having kids with a man or a woman? If you're, a man, you're going to have kids with man. Like, how is it going to work out so we can give people the opportunity?
So this is crazy because I have two girls too. I have an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I would
Okay.
never, like, I'd be terrified right now to like have a conversation, say, so oh, how many kids do you think you want to have? So do you think like so but this is such good information. I think actually starting with the OBGYN is a perfect way because it's like we're talking to them, they go for their checkups and it's like, "Oh, do you want to be on the pill or how are your periods? Are they regular? How many partners do you have?" Like so when you're in that stage, it's a perfect time to get the ball rolling to ask the next future questions. I mean, it's serious planning. It's a lot of planning ahead, but it's so smart. It really, really is smart. Because you know what? The other thing is, Dr. Nutman, is because I feel like the new generation is going to have babies much later than all of us if they have children, right?
That's a big if. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at countries like South Korea, Japan, the average age of first birth in those countries are like now 33. The
Yep.
total fertility rate is under one. Like they're not replacing their population. They're going to have a big problem, right? So people are having kids in different ways. Even, I mean, we're saying we have teenage daughters. Even the way they date is different, right? When they get in their 20s, it's all the swipe left culture. I'm not interested. I move on. Like everything is at their fingertips, so they make commitments less, right? I
Yeah.
see it all the
It
time.
has to be
So
easy. It's about
easy.
them. It's like things are on demand if it's a little bit out. And I mean, I actually did. You're completely right. I read an article recently that the fertility, like of people getting pregnant, the statistic has decreased so much, especially like I think Greece was one of them. Like it's really scary how the future might like we don't know like what who's going to be around at this point.
Yeah,
There might be some different populations that will have more kids, and all of a sudden the world will be just one race. You know what I mean? Like it's
correct.
going to shift drastically if people don't. Versus before, I mean, I don't want to say in the olden days, but right, and in our time, it was more like that's what you did. Like
Correct.
you had
I mean, if
kids.
you think about we're the same age. If you think about our parents' generation, like our moms, my mom got married at I think she was 20 or 21, right? And they had kids. Like it was very different than the way we think of it today. And there's so many pluses to what today is, right? Because I always say women are greater than 50% of med school, law school, colleges. And I do think, particularly for medicine, I'm speaking as a physician, the influx of women into medicine has been a game changer. Women tend to be more empathetic. They're better listeners. They are more patient. And therefore, patient care tends to be better when delivered by
Yes.
female physicians, right? That's not to say every male physician isn't, but they do. So there's been a huge plus there. But at the same time, there's been a loss because the way that families are created are not the same, and that is going to hurt our overall population down the road. And it hurts the women because I've sat with countless women who look at me and say, I did everything. I got the best grades. I achieved the highest honors. And now I'm sitting here and you're telling me I can't have genetic children or the chance of me having a genetic child is very low. And I'm saying, yeah, because at 42, the odds of that happening are not in your favor. There are other ways to build families,
Mhm.
and that's what's beautiful about fertility medicine. It doesn't have to be your egg, it could be a donor egg, and you don't have to carry the pregnancy. And these are all wonderful options but they may not be the option that you wanted.
Right. And that's heartbreaking, right? Because if that's something that you had a goal and you're like, okay, let me get to this. I'm going to climb the corporate ladder. I'm going to be where I want to be. And then when I'm financially stable, I have the house, I have the husband. Now is the time for me to have kids. And then it's like, oh, wait, what's happening? Why can't I
Yeah,
get pregnant? And I feel like a lot of people can't get pregnant lately, right? I mean, I don't know based on what you see with your patients, does that seem is it just age or is it lifestyle factors like stress or nutrition or just overall health that's causing this problem?
so I do think, number one, number two, number three is age, right? It's definitely age is the biggest reason for fertility struggles. Do I think there are environmental issues? I'm sure there are. Do we know what those environmental issues are definitively? No, we don't. But I'm not sitting here and saying that the environment hasn't impacted our bodies in a myriad of ways. It probably has impacted our fertility. I get sort of cautious to talk about stress because yes, I do think stress impacts our life. Yes, I am the daughter of a mental health provider, so I think there is a mind-body connection. But infertility is a disease. And when we say to women and men who are suffering from infertility, just relax, go on vacation, have a bottle of wine, you'll get pregnant. that is invalidating to the disease of which they're suffering. We
Hmm.
don't tell cancer patients, just go on a vacation. Don't take that chemotherapy. You're going to be fine, right? So we have to remember that infertility is a disease and that diseases need to be treated with medical interventions.
Right, right. So I know you're also involved in fertility preservation for cancer patients. Speaking of
Mhm.
cancer, can you explain why this area is important and how fertility can sometimes be protected before treatment?
Sure. So fertility, so when women receive a diagnosis of cancer, frequently there is a treatment such as chemotherapy, radiation surgery that can significantly reduce and impact in a negative way their fertility, right? So we need to get to women before they undergo chemotherapy to freeze eggs or freeze embryos so that we preserve their fertility. Now, back in the day, oncologists, medical, surgical oncologists, they didn't talk about it, right? Because there was, listen, you have cancer, the thing you have to do is save your life. And while we still prioritize saving one's life, we also recognize that young adolescent and teen and adult cancer survivors are most frequently going to survive their disease. But on the other side, they're going to be rendered infertile. So how do
Mhm.
we prevent that? And now the way we prevent it is by offering fertility preservation ahead of such treatments.
Yeah, that's so powerful, and that is, I think if I, especially if you have a young patient who's never had kids, and this is what she's dealing with, I think you're just opening up the pathway for them of hope, right? Like, okay, let's take care of this, so we make sure that the fertility is not a problem. Then now we can concentrate on your health and your treatment. So,
It
um,
also provides hope, right? Because
yeah.
it's a very dark
And hope
time
is
for
your mindset, right? So that can
yeah.
change everything for your mind.
You need a will, right? And so we are giving a lot of will and hope in that dark period.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what advancements in fertility medicine have you seen like that or you're excited about like in the in past 10 years?
I think the biggest advancement it has been egg freezing, right? I say the pill was science's greatest gift to women, and second only is egg freezing because it allows us to control our reproduction as opposed to our bodies being controlled by another outside force. I would also say the development of embryo biopsy and genetic testing, right? Back in the day when I'm as old as you and I both are as old as the first IVF baby. The way that we did it was we took an egg out, we took a sperm, and we put those embryos back in day one. We didn't know how to grow embryos in the lab. Now we can grow embryos to advanced stages and we can perform genetic testing for chromosome number. And that has dramatically changed success rates while also reducing multiple rates. And that's been very beneficial.
That's a great advancement and just saving yourself from a lot of pain and stress and wondering like, well, that's in my genes. What is it going to be passed on to my children? So I think that genetic testing is great. Now, would you say for women listening who may feel like they've waited too long, right? So right now we have, listeners that are saying, "Oh gosh, like it's past." She just said, "This is my age and I've waited too long." What message of hope or perspective would you want them to hear today?
I think, yes, a lot of women are like, oh, well, my fertile years are gone. And I say that might be true, but you definitely know a woman in her 20s or her 30s, or not just know, maybe you have a niece or a cousin or some person that you can make a change in their life. People always ask me, like, when you went into medicine, why'd you do it? I was like, because I had role models that inspired me to do what I do. I hope I inspire the next generation. But I also, there's things that I didn't get to do that I hope my daughters get to do because times have evolved. So if you were not able to access egg freezing because it wasn't there for your generation, maybe tell somebody else who's younger than you about it. We stand on the shoulders of the people that come before us, right? That's just the way
Hmm.
it is. And we have to keep pushing that forward.
Yeah, that's a good way to and open the door, pay it forward, basically.
Mhm.
Now, I know you work with a lot of women, right, at navigating that difficult fertility journey, which it can be challenging. What emotional challenges do you commonly see, and how can women better support themselves during this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a support system around you, I think for so many years, fertility treatment and fertility was sort of shrouded in silence because we were ashamed, we
Yeah.
felt guilty, there's a lot of embarrassment. But I think now talking about it and bringing that to the forefront, I think, and sharing it with people who are going to support you. It doesn't mean you have to put it on social media and tell your, 50,000 followers that you're going through IVF. Some people do, and I respect that. But even if it's like five good friends that are going to be there with you, to help you give your shots or pick you up from your procedure, that is very important. So I think it's sharing it and having a community and a support system. And I think finding activities that sort of quiet your mind. Now, it may be something you never did, like you may learn mahjong or you may learn to crochet. Who
And that's become
knows?
so common, right?
I know, right? So I'm like, I wish I had time to learn the mahjong, but like the point is, do something that may then help bring you peace so that you can go through this process easier.
I think that's a great point you make because I do feel like years ago it was kind of a shameful thing. No one wanted to say if they couldn't have kids or they were doing IVF and how the person, it was just like taboo, like no one talked about it. But now I love it. Now people are just, they tell their story and they come open about it because it's nothing shameful. It's just a process that you had to go through. And the more we have those real conversations, and the person, you don't know, the person sitting at the table is going through the same thing. And you're opening a door for her to say, guys, I just found out that this is what I have to do. And it's really been an
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster and I need your help and support. So I
Mhm.
love how that is happening and it's become so much more common now.
Yep, 100%. I actually think that's where social media is a plus,
Yes.
right? I mean, we have teenage daughters, there's a lot of negative, but the plus is that it expands community and hopefully makes frightening, isolating procedures less so.
Yeah. Now, as you were talking about, infertility is not just a medical diagnosis, right? It's an emotional loss. So, how do you help women go through that grief that come with realizing that they might not be able to have a biological child?
Yeah, I mean, I think that grief I mean, I talk a lot about the grief in the book, right? I say that it's like the LFG chapter. I don't know how much we can curse on here, but it's, the LFG just keeps swimming. The problem is grief is phases. So if I am told I cannot have a genetic child, I am probably not just gonna be like, okay, cool, I'll do egg donation. I'm gonna feel anger. I'm gonna bereave. I'm gonna bargain. I'm gonna go through all of those emotions. And me as the physician, my job is to help shepherd somebody through the phases of grief so that they get to acceptance. And whether that means sending them to a mental health provider or even doing a round of IVF, knowing that the chances are quite low, but that may help that person, that individual, get to acceptance. And by getting to acceptance, that will help them become a family, build a family.
So exactly, they have to go through that grieving process, and sometimes people are not aware. It's like you can't immediately be like, okay, you can't have a child, but here, let's look at these other options. It's like you have to actually go through that stage of angry, like why me, and then being sad about it, and grief, crying, emotional, and then move on to the fact that okay, I'm accepting this. Now I want to know what are my options, and that's because
Yeah,
so you kind of you're therapist, counselor, doctor, all of the above.
I am
You
actually.
have a
I'm always
hard job.
Yeah. Well, I say my job is sort of bipolar, right? I have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And those days where the highs are so high, you're like, oh, I love it. This job is amazing, amazing. And then the next day you're like, oh, this job is so hard. It
Hard.
sucks. And I mean, that's life. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
life is up and down and you want to vomit and scream and all that sort of stuff. But I also think that is the fertility journey. It can be very arduous and it can be very long. And I say frequently, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And we want it to be a sprint because we look around and some of our friends, they stopped, they didn't use birth control for 1 month and they were pregnant. And then for other
Yes.
people,
Yeah,
it's
you hear
not.
those stories,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it is. And it's hard. I think you have to understand that the process is difficult and you have to go with it with so much patience as well as your patient to realize it. But at the end, I feel like when there is success, it must be so rewarding for you, right? Because it's like, wow,
Yeah.
impacted this family in a complete different level that I can't even imagine. It's magical. It's so
Well,
powerful.
there are some people who are like, I will remember my whole life. I'm like, I think I'll be on my deathbed and I'll be remembering, like, I remember where I was when I called you to tell you you were pregnant. Like, that's crazy. Or I remember where I was when we spoke for the first time because, like, these people, like, they have, imprint on your life.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. Very powerful work. Now, let's talk about your book, Own Your Fertility, right? So, what
Mhm.
inspired you to write this book, and what is the primary message you hope that women take away after reading it?
Yeah, I think what inspired me was I saw a real shift in the field, like we spoke about earlier, like this infertility to fertility concept. And I always say nobody's going to accuse me of not being loud. I'm a very loud talker, but I was only as loud as the four walls of my office. So I wanted to find a way to get that message out. And I thought writing a book was the best way to do it. And so that was really the inspiration. I think if somebody said to me, what is like the one thing you hope people get out of the book? I think it really falls back to the title, right? Own it. Like, own your reproductive future, whatever that is. Having kids, not having kids, having, kids on your own, having kids through a surrogate or a donor, whatever it is, but own the future as you want it, as opposed to letting it control you.
Right. And I have no idea how in your busy life you found the time to write a book. I'm curious about that
Yeah.
one with kids, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's hard.
this is a
Yeah.
whole different thing of having it all,
I
right?
mean, that's the thing. We cannot have it all. And that
No.
myth is so, I always say, like, I have a great support system. I have, like, had amazing, like, babysitters, and I have an amazing spouse, and I have supportive parents. And, like, you cannot do it on your own. It is virtually impossible. I think also as a mom, and you probably would feel this too, like, you have to accept that you're not going to be at everything, right? You're going to
Yeah.
be at the big things, but you're not going to be at every single thing. And unfortunately that's sad, but it's okay because you're doing something that you're teaching your girls, like, this is worth it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I talk a lot about balance on my show, and it's really, because it's like you can balance for different seasons, different stages of your life. But yeah, you can't have it all because something always gives. And usually, unfortunately, I feel like it's ourself, right? We're
100%.
exhausted,
Yeah.
we're tired, we're burnt out. We don't have a moment for ourselves. But as long as we find out, like, okay, and this month, like the past 2 months have been crazy for me, and I just keep saying, okay, so this in this area, I am not doing well, but it's okay because right now I have to give like 120% to section of my life, to this segment. Then, so as long as you're aware and you don't beat yourself up and just feel guilty, I think that's the guilt is what kills us and gives us the
Yeah.
burnout. And just have that self compassion like, okay, this is this season. I'm doing this. What, like for you, like let's say you were finishing off your book. It's like, I need to finish this book off. I need to publish it. Once this book is done, then I'm going to concentrate more in this area and give time
Yeah.
more to this
Yeah.
department that I've been kind of ignoring, maybe going to less soccer games or whatnot, right?
Yep. Yep. And I think, like, oh, I wrote it when, my daughter, my older one, wasn't yet in high school where she didn't need as much help. Like, I don't think, maybe now if someone came to me, I'd be like, I need 5 years to sort of get through the next 5 years, and then I could do it again. So I think there's different points in your life that are maybe more fitting for
Yes.
you to write it, right? And so, yeah. And I think as a mom, like, we only do it so many times, right? So, like, unfortunately, you say to your sometimes you pass on career things because you're like, you know what, it's just not going to work with my kids, and that's more important to me now.
Yeah, because we're limited on time and then they do grow up and leave us, which
They
is
do.
sad.
Yes,
I'm in
it's
that
hard to
stage
believe
because
that,
my other
but
daughter's in college and my second one's graduating, and I'm just like, oh, no, no. But I'll have to hold on to my baby really, really tight. He's not a baby, he's 14, but I pretend.
yeah, 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 exactly.
So, one last question, just to be respectful of your time. For a woman who may be listening today and feeling anxious, just in general, about their fertility or their future family, what message of reassurance or empowerment would you like to leave them with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the book is not designed to create anxiety, right? That was not the goal. It was to give knowledge and information. So I think what I would say is you don't have to be nervous about it. We're nervous, there's a quote that's amazing. You're anxious about the future. You can feel depressed in the past, but the best is being living in the present. So I don't think you should be anxious, I think you should have information and live in the present so you can make educated decisions, right? And for those people who it may have passed you, sure, you're going to feel some degree of depression, but then we have to learn how to move on. So I think knowing what will happen to our bodies so you can make those educated choices, that's probably the most important thing.
Yes, educating ourselves, that's the key. So, Dr. Knopman, today's conversation has really reminded us that fertility is not simply a medical issue. Like you said, it's really tied to identity, timing, relationships, and life choices. As women continue to pursue careers and redefine traditional timelines, understanding and educating ourselves about the reproductive health becomes an important part of empowerment. Experts like you are helping bring clarity to topics that once felt confusing or taboo. The more informed we are about our bodies and our options from egg freezing to fertility preservation, the more confident we can be to make decisions that align with our life and our future families. And I think your book is a great way to start educating ourselves. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today and for helping us understand our fertility and the choices that we have. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
No, I would say the book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and I'm grateful for all the support and just excited about what we can build together.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And all the links will be in my show notes so you can find out more about Dr. Jaime Knopman and get her book. And thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you for spending this time with me here on Female Fluence, where we rise, reflect, and remember who we are. If something from today's episode spoke to you, share it with another woman who's ready to rise too. And before you go, download your free empowerment coaching guide at femalefluence.com. It's your next step toward living with more clarity and confidence. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Mashour_femalefluence. And if you're ready for deeper support, sign up for a free discovery call. I would love to connect with you. Remember, my friends, don't just exist. Live your life fully, bravely, and in truth. I'm Mashour, and until next time, stay true, stay powerful, and stay you.